All, Jai Shri Krishna Guruji. Welcome to the Shri Ekanathi Bhagavad Satsang. Om Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha, Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha, Om Shri Saraswataya Namaha, Om Shri Guru Datatre Namaha, Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha, Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. So we will be continuing Shri Ekanathi Bhagavad, chapter 1, which is the introduction. From the verse, we have completed until verse 141. Now we will begin verse Shri Ekanathi Bhagavad, chapter 1, verse 142. Now, I bow to Bhagavan Dattatreya, who is the teacher of all the teachers and who has inspired me to write this book, so that this teaching can be explained to all. It is he who shows me the words, enlightens me as regards the meaning of the words, and by giving me the position of the speaker, encourages me to speak. He says that Srimad Bhagavat is the heart's secret of God, and he whose mind will be always fixed in that God will get it and understand it. This divine wisdom, which is more ancient than the Kalpa, the great dispensation, was taught to the most intelligent Brahmadev, the creator, in order that the creator should be rich with self-knowledge, which wisdom was confined to only 4 Vedas. The faith of the good mind of Brahmadev was really wonderful because he got the realization of the self by only listening to the words of God. Oh, the greatness of the grace of Guru! It removed all the doubts from the mind of the Creator at one stretch. The same teaching contained in the 4 verses came down the ages through the tradition of Gurus. First of all, Brahmadeva gave the teaching to his Manas Putra, Sri Narada, who was intelligent and devotional. Manas Putra is the divine son whose existence is only on the mental plane and who is created and born by mental creative power. There are 7 sages and 4 Kumaras who are such Manas Putras of the creator of Brahmadev. So now Shri Eknath Maharaj is now honoring Lord Dattatreya and he's saying how this whole self-knowledge was passed down from Brahmadev to his Manas Putra. Now the children, that is Brahmadev's sons, who were born out of the divine, their divine son, who were born out of Brahmadev's mind, the mind. So how he created his the children, right? And the 7 sages. So how this whole lineage got transferred, the knowledge to this, the knowledge was transferred. That is the Manas Putra, who is the divine son whose existence is only on the mental plane. And it was created through Brahmaji's meditation, from Brahmaji's meditation. And born by mental creative power, and then the 7 sages and the 4 Kumaras. So that's how Brahmadev passed this knowledge. And next is listening to that teaching, the sage Narada was completely satisfied, and he himself by his body became the incarnation of the contents of those 4 verses, and he began to dance in that ecstasy. He held his divine veena on his shoulder, began singing in praise of the Brahman, and dancing and heaving in the very divine joy, he came down to earth. He descended below on the banks of the river Saraswati, where he saw the great sage Vyasa. He saw that Sri Vyasa was engulfed in the whirlpool of great confusion and doubt. Sri Vyasa had written and compiled all the mythological books which are full of the meaning of Vedas. But he was not having satisfaction and sense of accomplishment or peace of mind. While he was sinking deep in the sea of doubt, the kind-hearted sage Narada went there near him and reassured him by advising him not to fear. He met Sri Vyasa privately alone and making him concentrate his mind, gave him 4 verses which are having the power to snap the chains of worldly life. He gave Sri Vyasa the key to the spiritual understanding, or secretly that the sun did not see it, the sky did not hear of it, nor human ears could listen to it at all. By this advice of Sri Narada, the doubts of Sri Vyasa were removed and he was inwardly at peace and very happy. Afterwards, Sri Vyasa taught Srimad Bhagavat to Sri Shuka. thus fulfilling the self-knowledge by that action. So mythological books are having 5 subjects which are discussed or dealt within them. However, Sri Bhagavad is having 10 subjects and therefore it is called a greater Purana. The 10 subjects are thus described. First one is Sarga, Visarga, Snana, Poshana, Uti, Manavantara, Ishanu Kathana, Nirodha, Mukti and Ashraya. So these are the 10 subjects which has been discussed in the Srimad Bhagavatam. But Bhagavatam itself is very beautiful because it talks about all the stories of the divine Lord, all this leelas, the creation and lot more. And most important, it is also teaches us what we are learning today. That's the last message of Sri Krishna to Uddhava, which is called the Uddhav Gita. This gave great joy to Sri Shuka. Shuka is son of Vyasa. And he was satisfied. Not only this, he also went into a trance and remained still, his mind being absorbed into the peace of Atman. Actually, the trance itself was satisfied by being the state of Shuka. Then, while one part of his consciousness was enwrapped in the trance, he went to see the king Parikshit in order to give him the teaching of the knowledge of Brahman. If we consider the spiritual strength, we have to say that Parikshit was stronger in that respect than King Dharmaraj, because Parikshit had kept in bondage the very person of Kali Yuga, the Kali himself. This is because the King Dharmaraj remained on this earth so long as the Lord Shri Krishna was living. But as soon as Lord Shri Krishna left this earth, Dharmaraj also left this world because he was afraid of Kali. But Parikshit used to rule properly by keeping Kali under control, which shows that he was more courageous than King Dharmaraj. So what is being said? So when Lord Shri Krishna left this earth, planet earth, so he's saying that even that is King Dharmaraj also left the world because he was afraid of Kali. But King Parikshit, who is the grandson of Arjuna, ruled this world very well, keeping Kali under control. What does that mean? See, Kali under control means there is a lot of things that happens in this world. What are we first driven with? Which is lust and greed. So what did he keep under control? The lust and greed. And he ruled properly. Means what? He was following the righteous path, which is dharma. You have to follow the path of dharma and be a very good king. So that is what Parikshit was doing. He was the offspring born from the inherited pure blood of Arjuna through his son Abhimanyu, and was the grandson of Subhadra, the sister of Lord Shri Krishna. His body was virtually a gem of spiritual power because he was protected from death, saved by the Lord Shri Krishna himself. We are going to learn all about this, not all about this, but a little bit of the story in the scripture. Who can assure the complete spiritual authority or power of Parikshit, whose protection prevented the Brahmastra of Ashwatthama from entering the womb? He was observing the Lord Shri Krishna, who saved him in the womb as the God, who dwells in every being, and therefore he was called by that name Parikshit, the observer. See the greatness of that name. So Parikshit, the son of Abhimanyu, was born only for the purpose of uplifting the world, which is evident from the fact that through him only 3 worlds have got the fountain of the spiritual life in the form of Sri Bhagavat. So here a little bit background. See, if Parikshit wouldn't have been there, we wouldn't be learning Srimad Bhagavat. So who did Parikshit? Because of Parikshit, Shuka taught Parikshit, right? Because of him, Srimad Bhagavatam is heard by all of us. So we have to be very grateful. So everything in this universe has a very defined purpose. And Parikshit's birth is very important. And what is he saying? He was here to what? Uplift this world. Upliftment. Was born only for the purpose of uplifting this world. Please understand, we individuals have a purpose in this world. We are here to do good. It is not just about I, me, myself. We are here to do good in this world also. So we have to always think not just about ourselves, but about the world as well. He had discrimination and desirelessness and had sacrificed everything for attaining the absolute Brahman. When Sri Shuka saw Parikshit of these qualities, he was very glad. The anger of Brahmins is strange. By giving curse to Parikshit, he has actually provoked him to gain the knowledge of Brahman and made him worthy of it. Now I offer my salutations full of devotion. Here Eknath Maharaj is saying something very beautiful. So what is he saying? He's saying the anger of Brahmins is strange. By giving curse to Parikshit, he has actually provoked him to gain the knowledge of Brahman. So what is he saying? So the sage's son curses him, right? So I'm sure you know the story of Parikshit Maharaj. How did this happen? Why did Parikshit was going to listen to the words of the god? So most important, when the curse happened to Parikshit, so Parikshit, was given only 7 days. He said he is going to live only for 7 more days. And that is when he meets Shuka, and then Shukadev narrates him the Srimad Bhagavatam so that he can attain God realization. Now, here Eknath Maharaj is saying the sage's anger is very valid. See, all these things happen for a reason alone. We think, oh my God, why is this curse happening? Why did this happen? But please understand, in the world of the Divine Lord, everything is happening for a progress alone. There is something good in that. We human beings don't see it that way. We are always looking at the downside of life. This is what my Krishna Guruji will always say. Because we are programmed to look at the downside of life. But what is the upside? That is what we have to see. That's what Eknath Maharaj is saying here. So, by giving curse to Parikshit, he actually provoked him to gain the knowledge of Brahman. Isn't it? This became the cause for Parikshit listen to the knowledge and attain God realization. That is what happened. So everything is happening for the good. And what are we doing today? Because of Parikshit Maharaj, we are listening to this beautiful Srimad Bhagavat. We are learning about it. So it is also a good thing for us because we will also want to reach that destination in our life. So let us continue. Brahmins are greater than Brahman itself. What should I talk more about this? Let it be sufficient to say that Lord Vishnu still uses the mark of the kick of Bhrigu as a decorative piece of his chest. My statement that Brahman is God of the Brahman also has been proved to be true. The Lord Narayana has taken birth as Veda and become manifest through the Brahmins only. So Brahmins are the gods of the earth. They are the limbs of Parabrahman, and therefore those who do not worship Brahmins are really luckless and pitiable. Here Brahmin means the knower of Brahman. We are not talking about the Brahmin as a caste or a priest. We are not talking about them. Brahman here refers to the one who has realized the divine Lord, who is an enlightened being. Knowers of the Brahma means they know the truth about God. Strange is the power of Brahmins. They have compelled the Lord to obey them. See, while consecrating any image, it is charged with the power of God by the recital of mantras by Brahmins. Listening to the talk of Eknath, the saint said, "Oh, what can we say? Whatever prayers you make in your devotion, you are bringing out new maxims every time in regard to literature and expertise. You have paid similar respect to Ganapati and Saraswati by giving this god and goddess the equality of Brahman. And in describing the greatness of saints, you have expressed their unity through your words of praise. Then in the description of your family lineage and your family goddess, you have told the story of Parshurama, listening to which the mind forgot all the worries totally. The reverence you have about the saints is the same as you have towards Brahmins, and you have pleased the Guru by praise. So your speech is really blessed. As soon as you begin to speak, we recognize by signs that it is the Guru Janardana who is himself talking through your mouth. You have become overwhelmed by emotion and love, but you have to be firm and control it to enable you to tell the story further. So here the whole summarization is given. What is that he's saying? That Eknath Maharaj has now paid his respects. What are we supposed to do? First, offer our humble respects to God Ganesha, Ma Saraswati, and then to the family lineage and the family goddess. And here the family goddess And in that, he told the story of Parshuram, and then he offered his reverence to the saints and his Guru himself. And here is very beautifully saying, Guru Janardana, who is himself talking through your mouth. I always say, the words are a wisdom of the divine Lord Almighty. See, it is my Krishna Guruji who speaks through me because it is his wisdom. I don't have knowledge. So we should never have the ego at all. You can't say, oh, I'm learning, I have this knowledge. Knowledge we don't have. I cannot know. So I is not there. Knowledge is, and that is the divine knowledge. So these are the words of my Krishna Guruji's wisdom, and I offer my humble obeisance unto him that he has blessed me to do this scripture. Now we begin. So Eknath says, I had really forgotten this fact. It is good that you have reminded me. It is because of this that I have put complete faith at your feet. I request you that you may please make good wherever there is some lacuna, and by making the book a great success, kindly give me a good name and recognition by the saints. The saints said, wonderful, wonderful. You are right. Oh, the supporter of all poets. In order that the book should be understood with reference to context, start your commentary on the original Sanskrit. Ekanath said, yes, yes. I have kept in my mind great devotion to your assuring talk, and I have laid myself low at your feet. Now please see, according to your orders, I am beginning the introduction. Ekanath begins to tell the story. So now we begin. In the forest by name, Naimisha Sutta, the mythological storyteller, is telling Shaunaka and others the background of the story of the 11th skanda as follows. It is the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavad. In the last skanda, which is the 10th skanda, the story having 9 facets was told. Now in the 11th skanda, the Lord Sri Krishna is telling a story further which deals with the path of liberation. This story was first told by Sri Shuka, who is the full moon in the sky of the consciousness, who is the crown jewel of the knowledge of yoga, and the listener is the King Parikshit. The King Parikshit said, O sir, I have given up all my possessions for this knowledge, and you have become kind enough to help me to gain it. I therefore say that my good fortune is having no limits. Really, this story leading to liberation is vast, and those who are earnest about liberation should, by putting firm foot on the head of their mind, controlling their mind, become alert to listen to it. So most important, we have to have ekagrita, focus, because listening is very important. So what are we going to do is Shravan. So you need to have a single pointed mind or single pointedness so that you can listen. They should turn their ears inward and put their mind in the ears. They should then awaken their attention and follow the sequences of the story. The Lord has taken many births in many yugas, but the miracle in the birth of Sri Krishna is quite different. O sirs, the adventures of Sri Hari are beyond logic. Even the gods do not understand this secret. Nobody can understand Lord Sri Krishna Bhagavan. Even the gods themselves don't know. When I say gods, I'm talking about the demigods or the deities. As soon as he was born, he became separate from his mother. Maya, to say in the occult sense, went away and grew by his own power, giving to Putana, etc., demons, the great opportunity of total liberation while he was only a child. He exhibited for his mother this universal divine form. He afforded for the cowherds the glimpse of Vaikuntha, and yet did not change his attire of the cowherd, thus keeping hidden his true form. While he was only a child, he killed very formidable opponents and allowed the world witness his extraordinary feats, but did not transcend his status of a child. Though he was absolute Brahman incarnate, he practiced robbery. Though he was God, he did debauchery and showed that he was a bachelor, though he was having wives and children. It's a way to say. See, understand, Lord Sri Krishna does perform his Leela. What it is called is Leelas. And through these Leelas, he is actually liberating. Here, didn't he say that? He liberated many, total liberation, the great opportunity of liberation. To whom? Putana and demons, because they were killed in the hands of Lord Sri Krishna. They attained liberation immediately. Isn't that a great boon? So anything that the Lord does is always for the welfare of this humankind. I mean, the entire creation itself. But we don't see it like this. So don't go by the literary meaning of those words. By using irreligion, he promoted the religion. By committing wrong action, he upheld the sanctity of good action. And by following irregularity, he followed strictly the exact moral code. That's exactly what I was saying. So every action of his has a profound truth in it. It's about how you look at it matters, because we cannot look at an action of Lord Sri Krishna using our mind in the material way, because you have to go through, you have to see through it, you have to understand it, to understand the truth about his actions. So a common man will interpret, oh, Sri Krishna Bhagwan stole butter from the gopi's house. Stole, well, that's a robbery, right? But you can't say that. There is a profound truth behind it, the adhyatmic meaning. So it's a leela. That is what you have to understand. He used contact and attachment to bring about unattachment. By indulgence in sensual pleasures, he promoted yoga, union with the divine Lord. Oneness is what he promoted. Without actually giving up anything physically, he accomplished sacrifice which was blotless. He destroyed the difference of opinions which were caused due to stupid involvement in the outer form of action, and demonstrated how freedom can be vested even in the enjoyments. Thus, he did in order to teach the persons attached to ceremonies. So every action of his, he taught how to be, detached, how to, attain divine, how to be in yoga, oneness. So this is exactly what Sri Krishna Bhagwan teaches. That is Bhagavad Dharma. And most important, the word Bhagavad Dharma means love. And that's the foundation of Sri Krishna Bhagwan is knowledge and love. Actually, he is the personification of love. He's a love incarnate. That is what we have to do. So when he comes, he establishes the Dharma. That is Bhagavad Dharma. Sri Krishna Bhagwan's lineage is knowledge and love. Knowledge is because you need to have knowledge, and he imparts you that knowledge. And most important, the only way to attain him is what? Love and devotion. That is what bhakti is, what he teaches. And how do you have this oneness while doing any activity? See, yoga means what? Union with the divine Lord. So whatever job you're doing, whatever work you do, you have to always offer it and do in detachment. That's what he teaches, right? How people, have attached. So how do you become detached from everything and still perform the same action? That's what Krishna Bhagwan teaches. He put in one line the devotion, indulgence and liberation. How can we fathom his fame? By eating dust, he demonstrated within his mouth the universal form of God. That's what he showed to Yashoda Maya, right? His mother. And then she couldn't understand, but he covers everything with Maya. He reveals, but yet he puts the Maya. So the person keeps wondering, what just happened? And the mind takes over. Why? Because he covers off with Maya. He gives you that little experience. That little experience of him is what you have to hold on to. Please understand, he is always going to put his Maya so strong that you will not be able to understand that you are in front of Sri Krishna Bhagwan. This Lord Almighty is standing in front of you. Don't go by his ordinary appearance. He tries to put himself, he's covering himself with this projection of his Maya. That's not who he is. I will tell you the great and purifying life story of this Sri Krishna. There is no doubt that in this incarnation, self-knowledge is explained in detail. In the summary of the teachings contained in the 11th skanda, at the beginning as well as at the end, the state of final freedom or the Atmic state itself is described either in short or at length at various places. In this skanda, what Narada the sage told to Vasudeva based on the dialogue between the king Nimi and the son of Jayanti, known as Jayanta, is the short version of that teaching. As the Lord Sri Krishna loved Uddhava very deeply, he gave him all the knowledge by giving various examples. This teaching is the detailed version of self-knowledge. Earlier, in the 10th skanda, Sri Krishna has indicated the preventive actions required to be done, nirodhana, to protect religion by actually killing the irreligious persons and relieving the earth of their burden. Sri Shuka is telling the summary of the earlier story, how the Lord Sri Krishna took birth in order to redress the troubles of the earth caused by the burden of bad elements. So what does Krishna Bhagavan says? Whenever there is adharma in rise on this earth, I will manifest time and again to establish dharma and protect my devotees. The only reason why he is incarnating time and again, is taking various forms and incarnating, is only to establish dharma and to uplift the humankind, and most important, to protect his devotees. When you are the devotee of the Lord, nothing shall befall my devotees, is the promise he gives. So have this bhakti for Lord Shri Krishna Bhagavan. Nothing else you need to have. Just that love and devotion is all it's required. And how he killed all the demons and danavas as well as the evil kings who were a burden to the earth. So now we are beginning with the verse. Okay, we can do this verse. Sri Shuka, the son of Vyasa, that is Bhadrayana, began again. Attended by Balaram and surrounded by the Yadavas, Sri Krishna, having destroyed the demons and creating violent discord, that is enmity, between the Pandavas and the Kauravas, relieved the earth of a burden. The Lord Sri Krishna, who was himself absolute Brahman in person, accompanied by very powerful Balram, that is his brother, who's the avatar of Adishesh, who was expert in amusement and entertainment for others, took the help of brave Yadavas and killed demons. In case of those who were not easy to be killed by Yadavas, Shri Krishna so arranged that they themselves stood against each other as enemies. Example, against friends, brothers, against brothers, relatives, brothers and relatives. And he even provoked Pandavas, and developing quarrels arranged for the total genocide of Kauravas, thus relieving earth of its burden. So everything is the will of the divine Lord. So you can't say that, some actions are happening. Please understand, even a blade of grass doesn't move without the will of the divine Lord. So whatever is happening under his substat, under his will alone. He is the master and everything is under his domain alone. So the next verse, making as his instrument the Pandavas, whose enmity had been frequently provoked by their opponents, the Kauravas, through deceitful gambling, humiliating insults, dragging Draupadi by her hair, and other bad deeds, the Lord caused the destruction of the kings assembled on both sides in the war, and thus relieved the earth of its burden of evil persons. So what does Krishna Bhagavan do? He removes unrighteousness. He removes evil people, evil beings who are causing disturbance on this earth. The Lord Sri Krishna, in order to relieve the burden of the earth by bringing together all the kings who were evildoers and thus caused great trouble for the world, and killing them by fighting among themselves, created a cause for quarrel. So if there has to be a cause and an effect, right? If the war has to happen, there needs to be some cause. So what is he saying? This cause happened. So this cause, the root cause of everything, So Krishna Bhagavan made it happen is what is being said. But Lord himself doesn't do. His universe works. That's how it is. Shri Krishna Bhagavan himself doesn't do. It is his universe which makes it happen under his guidance. According to this plan of Lord Shri Krishna, the deceptive dice were created, and by the very deceit, the whole group of Kauravas were easily killed. In the world, normally, gambling is indulged in by evil persons. Moreover, this time, the game was begun by great deception. The Kauravas, who were villains, purposely used deceptive dice against the king Dharmaraj. Ordinary ignorant people also do not harass their wives, and Draupadi was a faithful wife of Dharma. They brought her in the open royal hall by whisking her. Not only this, but Dushasana caught her tresses, and that is why so much distress was created. Really, this evil deed made him suffer very badly. You do not insult that too. What is he saying? Normally, nobody will insult your own faithful wife. But imagine Draupadi, and she's your brother's wife, and you drag her in the royal court in front of everybody and insult. That is adharma. That is very, it's against the conduct of the rule, which is the conduct. That's a code, the rules and regulation of this universe. You can't do something like that. So, in a forest of somebody robs another by violence, the king finds out the robber and punishes him. But if the king himself commits robbery openly in his own royal court, it is evident that he has invited his own death. How can you do this in your own royal court? This is adharma. So Krishna Bhagavan is not going to keep quiet. So you have to be destroyed. So what is he saying? You have welcomed your own death. If the king loots anybody without cause or crime, then it is God who intervenes. Try to denude Draupadi was the chief crime, the main injustice done by Kauravas. How can you do this? You can't do this, no matter who she is. She is a woman, and this is against the law, universal law. God has never told anybody to be so evil. This is against the dharma. To put the house on fire, to poison Bhima, to rob Pandavas of their possessions, to covet their wife, to kill by deceit, to hold weapon in order to kill. Disobedience and ridicule, verbal insult and harassment of dharma, all these were used as direct or indirect cause for achieving his aim. So what happened? They were all programmed to do this. See, you should understand one very important lesson here. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna Bhagavan says something very powerful. What does he say? The demonic disposition and the divine endowments, both is within us. Who do you want to be? So what is he saying here? Here, see, Dushasan, all these Kauravas, they were deceitful, evil. So what did the Lord use? That nature. So they were programmed to use that nature. So he had to destroy them. So they had that nature already, and they were creating an upheaval. They are not a good rulers. They are not doing good to the society, the kingdom, the people. So they had to be killed. And actually the adhyatmic meaning is very different, but I'm not going to go in that. That is something you can listen to my Krishna Guruji's Bhagavad Gita Satsang, which is on Krishna Knows, and you can learn about what the adhyatmic meaning he talks about. But here he's giving this background, why this upheaval happened, why Krishna Bhagavan himself, has come, why this destruction, why did he kill, all that. Eknath Maharaj is just giving a background to the verse which is mentioned by Lord Shri Krishna only, which he was narrating to Uddhava. So you don't forget the context here. So, if one whisks the dress from the body of a faithful wife of somebody, it is definitely a cause of death of the sinner. This became the cause of the war, and by this only the whole family was destroyed. God definitely kills the person who is against religion like this, and truly for this only, he kindled tremendous anger in the mind of Pandavas. See, you cannot have irreligion or going against the universal law of the Lord. So we are here as good individuals. We have to follow our dharma. Most important, what is he saying? You can't behave like this. And today, do you see all this is happening in the Kali Yuga? Why is this knowledge coming to you? So that we can become divine. We can become good human being. We can follow the path of dharma. So you have to become dharmic in life. Following dharma, that is path, righteousness is very important. Today, everybody has gone off the path. So you are privileged to get this knowledge. So let us imbibe and live a God-pleasing life as taught by Sri Krishna Bhagavan. In order to reduce the burden of the earth, he created extraordinary quarrel among the relatives, the friends, the dear ones, the in-laws, and even very respectable philosophers. The Lord Sri Krishna caused the conflict and killed the loving brothers together with the great kings and their armies, thus effecting great genocide. So with that, we have finished the verse 2. We will stop here and continue tomorrow the new verse. Thank you all. Thank you for joining Sri Ekanathi Bhagavad Satsang. Have a good day and good evening to you all. God bless.
Recording stopped.
Thank you, Rajma. Rajma,
Thank you,
what is the verse you have stopped?